It's Super Bowl Sunday, February 3rd. I'm Margaret Brennan, and this is Face the Nation from Atlanta, Georgia, site of Super Bowl 53. As the country turns its attention to an annual American tradition, we'll kick off Super Bowl Sunday with an interview with President Trump. In a wide-ranging discussion, we talked about ongoing negotiations with Congress over funding his wall and last month's shutdown. You had quite the showdown with Speaker Pelosi. What did you learn about negotiating with her?
Well, I think that she was very rigid.
The president split with his own intelligence team over the dangers posed by withdrawing from Syria and Afghanistan. The concern in here by your intelligence chiefs, though, is that you could, in that vacuum, see a resurgence of ISIS, see a resurgence of terror groups like Al-Qaeda.
We'll come back if we have to.
And, of course, football. Would you let your son, Barron, play football?
It's a very tough question. It's a very good question. If he wanted to, yes. Would I steer him that way? No, I wouldn't.
Then it's on to the game. We'll have pregame analysis from our own James Brown. Plus, talk with some of the best sports reporters in the business. It's all ahead this Super Sunday on Face the Nation. Good morning and welcome to Face the Nation. We're in the NFL Experience Complex at the site of Super Bowl 53. The presidential interview is a tradition for the network broadcasting the game, and this year it's on CBS. So we sat down with President Trump in the Blue Room in the White House on Friday. But you also campaigned saying that, President Obama made a big mistake by telegraphing his military moves. You're telegraphing your retreat.
Anything. No. There's a difference. When President Obama pulled out of Iraq, in theory, we had Iraq. In other words, we had Iraq. We never had Syria because President Obama never wanted to violate the red line in the sand. So we never had Syria. I was the one that actually violated the red line when I hit Syria with 59 Tomahawk missiles, if you remember. Mm-hmm. But President Obama chose not to do that. When he chose not to do that, he showed tremendous weakness. But we didn't have Syria, whereas we had Iraq. So when he did what he did in Iraq, which was a mistake, being in Iraq was a mistake, okay? Being in Iraq, it was a big mistake to go. One of the greatest mistakes going into the Middle East that our country has ever made. One of the greatest mistakes that we've ever made.
But you want to keep troops there now.
When it was chosen, well, we spent a fortune on building this incredible base. We might as well keep it. And one of the reasons I want to keep it is because I want to be looking a little bit at Iran, because Iran is a real problem.
Whoa, that's news. You're keeping troops in Iraq because you want to be able to strike in Iran?
No, because I want to be able to watch Iran. All I want to do is be able to watch. We have an unbelievable and expensive military base built in Iraq. It's perfectly situated for looking at all over different parts of the troubled Middle East. Rather than pulling up, and this is what a lot of people don't understand, we're going to keep watching. And we're going to keep seeing. And if there's trouble, if somebody's looking to do nuclear weapons or other things, we're going to know it before they do.
So you're going to trust the intelligence that you receive?
I am going to trust the intelligence that I'm putting there. But I will say this, my intelligence people, if they said, in fact, that Iran is a wonderful kindergarten, I disagree with them 100%. It is a vicious country that kills many people. When you talk about torture and so many other things, and maybe they'll come back. The country is getting absolutely, when I ended the horrible Iran nuclear deal, it was a horrible deal done by President Obama and John Kerry that didn't know what the hell he was doing. When I ended that deal, Margaret, all of a sudden, Iran became a different country. They became very rapidly. Right now, they're a country that's in big financial trouble. Let's see what happens. When I look at Iran, I look at Iran as a nation that has caused tremendous problem.
Yeah.
When I came in as President of the United States, my first year, I went to the Pentagon 2 weeks after I came in, a short time after, and I was given a little, because I wanted to know what's going on with Iran. We were in many, many locations in the Middle East in huge difficulty. Every single one of them was caused by the #1 terrorist nation in the world, which is Iran. So when my intelligence people tell me how wonderful Iran is, if you don't mind, I'm going to just go by my own counsel.
Because you have an acting AG until you get Barr confirmed.
Yes.
You got an acting defense secretary, an acting chief of staff, an acting interior
It's okay.
secretary.
It's easier to make moves when they're acting.
So you are going to shake up.
Some, and some
Position.
not. Some are doing a fantastic job. Really, I like acting because I can move so quickly. Gives me more flexibility. But actually, some of the names you mentioned, they're doing a fantastic job.
How do you know when to fire someone?
When it's not happening, when
What do you mean?
it doesn't get done. Like with General Mattis, I wasn't happy with his service.
In the past, President Trump has had some tough criticism for the NFL. But this year, he's got a somewhat different tone. Here's more of our conversation. Would you let your son Barron play football?
It's a very tough question. It's a very good question. If he wanted to, yes. Would I steer him that way? No, I wouldn't.
Why?
I wouldn't. And he actually plays a lot of soccer. He's liking soccer. And a lot of people, including me, thought soccer would probably never make it in this country, but it really is moving forward rapidly. I just don't like the reports that I see coming out having to do with football. I mean, it's a dangerous sport. And I think it's really tough. I thought the equipment would get better, and it has. The helmets have gotten far better, but it hasn't solved the problem. So, I hate to say it because I love to watch football. I think the NFL is a great product. But I really think that as far as I've heard NFL players saying they wouldn't let their sons play football. So it's not totally unique, but I would have a hard time with it.
There will be more of our conversation with the president about football at 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific as we get closer to kickoff. North Korea. When and where are you going to meet Kim Jong-un?
I won't tell you yet, but you'll be finding out probably State of the Union or shortly before. But the meeting is set. He's looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. We've made tremendous progress. If you remember, before I became president, it looked like we were going to war with North Korea. Now we have a very good relationship. The hostages are back. Okay? The remains are starting to come back. The remains of our Korean War veterans,
But
these
your
great
intelligence
people.
chief testified this week that Kim Jong-un is still very unlikely to give up his nuclear weapons program.
That's what the intelligence chief thinks. And I think
Why is
there's
he
a good
wrong?
possibility of that too. But there's also a very good chance that we will make a deal. I think he's also tired of going through what he's going through. He has a chance to have North Korea be a tremendous economic behemoth. It has a chance to be one of the great economic countries in the world. He can't do that with nuclear weapons, and he can't do that on the path they're on now. I like him. I get along with him great. We have a fantastic chemistry. We have had tremendous correspondence that some people have seen and can't even believe it. They think it's historic, and we'll see what happens. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to make a deal, but certainly I think we have a very good chance of making a deal. And one of the reasons is because North Korea has a chance, being located between Russia, China, and South Korea. What a location. I'm in the real estate business. What a location. They have a chance to be an economic powerhouse.
You're going to keep U.S. troops there in South Korea?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't talked about anything else. Maybe someday, I mean, who knows? But, it's very expensive to keep troops there. You do know that. We have 40,000 troops in South Korea. It's very expensive, but I have no plans. I've never even discussed removing them.
We're back with CBS News special correspondent James Brown. He's the host of the NFL Today. JB, you're so busy today. It is so good to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Margaret.
This is your 9th pregame show?
You know what? I try not to think about the numbers, although as you and I were teasing before going on camera, when you hear the words venerable, legendary, translation old, and I never put it in context that what it meant. But I really try to focus on the event at hand. I thoroughly enjoy what I'm doing. It's new and different every time we are blessed
How
at
is
CBS
it different?
to do that.
How has the game changed over the years?
Wow, the game has changed. One, because of the amount of attention that it gets. It's a cultural phenomenon, if you will. It's the biggest one-day sporting event. Ratings, you're talking before 100 million people plus around the world. You look at the cost of what a commercial was back in 1967, I believe it was, at $42,000 for a 30-second spot. Try $5.5 million plus now for a 30-second spot. So that's how it's changed. And the coverage has been pretty comprehensive, but it's all fun.
You heard President Trump when we spoke with him he's continued to bring some, frankly, unwanted attention to the NFL, particularly around this controversy over race, over how to handle standing or sitting during the anthem. Has the league moved past this?
I don't know that you can say the league has moved past it, because it's not an issue that can be moved past, in my humble opinion, as a correspondent, as a reporter. Because many of the athletes who feel so compelled to do such because of the systemic issues that are a real pathology in their communities, they just want to engage in a meaningful, collaborative approach to answering some of these things. On the Super Bowl pregame show today, we will talk with a very well-versed player. We'll also talk with a league official, senior official, and with a former CEO, Amy Trask, of a team to talk about what appears to be some significant progress that's been happening behind closed doors in very serious conversations, which, quite frankly, is the way it ought to happen.
Well, the president weighed in on that, and he tries to say it's been moved past in his dispute with Roger Goodell. But what you're talking about are those underlying issues that the protest was about in the first place.
So, you know, Margaret, and let me just say this, and again, I'm reporting again as a dispassionate source talking about this. The narrative has been that the players were being anti-patriotic, anti-flag, anti-police, anti-military. These are players who have family members who are in the military, who are law enforcement officers, and who are looking for a meaningful way to bring attention to something to create dialogue, which it has happened. But if the narrative has been hijacked to say that it is no matter what, it's a non-starter, you're not hearing. The two sides ought to hear each other to make progress.
An important point. You know, parents worry about their kids getting injured playing sports. That's been another topic for the NFL. How have they addressed some of these concerns about concussions and injuries?
Very serious issue, to say the least. One cannot run from that. Football is not playing chess. It's not playing Scrabble. It's a tough game. But what we have seen is, one, from last year to this year, there has been a significant drop, nearly 24% drop in concussions. That's significant, and prayerfully, hopefully, it'll continue going in that direction.
How'd they do that?
Well, a combination of things. Principally officiating. Roger Goodell probably gets a real bad rap because they called him as the new sheriff in town who's trying to clean up the game. That's a good thing. And the players recognize that as well, because when you see them, when they're no longer playing on the field and they're walking around showing the wounds sustained in that game, they need to be protected from themselves. Number two, guess who's going to make the decision about whether or not there's a pipeline of players coming up to play? Mothers like you. If a mother deems the game to be unsafe, you're not going to allow your newborn son to play football. At the lower levels, what the coaches are doing now, they're teaching what's called heads-up football, and it needs to start at that level, as opposed to attacking with the crown of your helmet. Hopefully I'm not getting too esoteric. You got to have your head up, and you got to wrap around. The game can still be played tough and physically without being dangerous, and cleaning up that element that maybe was playing in the old style football. Does that make sense, Margaret?
Absolutely. And I think a lot of parents appreciate you explaining all of that. That's it for us today. We hope you stay with CBS all day through a special late show with Stephen Colbert. I'm Margaret Brennan from Atlanta.